The buzzing of her phone dragged Alison Reed from her dreamless sleep. She fumbled in the darkness, knocking over a half-empty mug of yesterday's coffee before finding her cell. The caller ID displayed her sister's name, and a quick glance at the clock, 4:47 a.m., sent a jolt of concern through her body. "Mia, what's wrong?" Alison's voice was thick with sleep. "Ali, I'm so sorry." Her sister's words were punctuated by violent coughing. "I have a fever of 102. There's no way I can drive to the airport. Mr. Hayes will kill me if no one picks him up." Alison sat up, rubbing her eyes. "Wait, slow down. Who's Mr. Hayes?" "My boss. The one I've been telling you about for months. He's flying in from London this morning for the Henderson merger. I was supposed to pick him up at 6:30. More coughing followed. "Please, Ali. My job depends on this. You just need to pick him up and drive him to the Grand Hotel downtown. He doesn't know what I look like in person yet. I've only been his assistant for 3 months, and we've only had video calls where I'm just a small face on the screen." Alison groaned. This was exactly like Mia. Last-minute emergencies that somehow became Alison's problem. But her sister sounded genuinely ill, and despite their complicated relationship, Alison couldn't bring herself to say no. "Fine. What does he look like?" "Tall, dark hair, probably wearing an expensive suit. He'll be coming from London on flight BA284. Just make a sign with Mr. Hayes on it. Please, Ali, I owe you big time." 20 minutes later, Alison was in her decade-old Honda Civic, a hastily scrawled sign on the passenger seat, heading toward the airport in the pre-dawn darkness. Her mousy brown hair was pulled back into a messy ponytail, and she wore the nicest outfit she could assemble on short notice: black pants and a blue button-up blouse that she hoped looked professional enough. As she drove, she mentally rehearsed what to say. She would be polite but not overly chatty. She would explain that her sister was ill, drive him to his hotel, and that would be that. A simple favor, nothing more. The airport was surprisingly busy for such an early hour. Alison parked in short-term parking, wincing at the rates, and made her way to the International Arrivals Terminal. She positioned herself near the exit, holding up her makeshift sign. "Mr. Hayes," written in black marker on the back of a grocery receipt. Passengers began trickling out, looking tired after their overnight flights. Alison scanned each face, looking for someone who matched her sister's vague description. After 15 minutes of waiting, she started to worry. Had she missed him somehow? Was she in the wrong terminal? Just as she was about to call Mia again, a tall man in a perfectly tailored charcoal suit approached her. His dark hair was neatly styled, and despite what must have been an exhausting flight, he looked refreshed and alert. His striking blue eyes locked with hers, and Alison felt an unexpected flutter in her stomach. "Are you from Reed Associates?" he asked, his voice carrying a hint of a British accent. Alison hesitated for a fraction of a second. Reed Associates was her sister's company. This had to be Mr. Hayes. "Yes, I am," she replied, lowering her sign. "I'm here to take you to your hotel." The man smiled, revealing perfect white teeth. "Excellent. I'm Daniel Morgan. I appreciate the early pickup. Let me just grab my luggage." Alison froze. Daniel Morgan, not Hayes, but he had recognized the company name. Perhaps Hayes was his first name. Before she could ask for clarification, he had turned toward the baggage claim area, clearly expecting her to follow. Confused but not wanting to create an awkward scene, Alison trailed after him. Maybe Mia had gotten the name wrong in her feverish state. As they waited for his luggage, Alison discreetly sent a text to her sister. "Is your boss's name Daniel Morgan or Hayes?" No response came as Daniel collected his sleek black suitcase from the carousel. They walked in silence to the parking garage, and Alison felt increasingly uncomfortable. Something wasn't right, but she couldn't put her finger on what exactly. "This is me," she said apologetically as they approached her modest car. "I'm sorry it's not the company car. There was a situation this morning." Daniel looked surprised for a moment, but quickly recovered. "No problem at all. I appreciate the accommodation." As they settled into the car and Allison navigated out of the airport, Daniel began asking questions about the upcoming meetings. She gave vague responses, trying to avoid revealing that she knew absolutely nothing about Reed Associates' business operations. "So the Henderson merger is still on track for Friday?" he asked, consulting his phone. "As far as I know, yes," Allison replied cautiously, merging onto the highway toward downtown. The office hasn't mentioned any delays." Daniel glanced up sharply. "Your sister?" Allison gripped the steering wheel tighter. "I'm filling in for Mia Reed this morning. She's ill with a fever. I'm her sister, Allison." There was a long pause during which Allison could feel his eyes studying her profile. Finally he spoke. "Mia Reed isn't expecting me until tomorrow." Allison's stomach dropped. She pulled into the right lane, slowing down as the implications hit her. "You're not Mr. Hayes?" "No," Daniel said, his voice now cool and measured. "I'm Daniel Morgan, CEO of Pinnacle Investments. I'm in town to meet with several potential acquisition targets, including Reed Associates. The meeting with your sister's company is scheduled for tomorrow afternoon." Allison's cheeks burned with embarrassment. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. There's been a huge misunderstanding." "Clearly," Daniel replied, but there was a hint of amusement in his voice now. "Who is Mr. Hayes?" "My sister's boss. She was supposed to pick him up this morning, but she's sick, so she asked me to go instead." Allison felt mortified. "I should have realized when you said your name, but you mentioned Reed Associates and I just assumed. So, somewhere at this airport, there's a Mr. Hayes wondering where his ride is?" Daniel asked. The realization hit her like a truck. "Oh no!" She quickly pulled over to the shoulder of the highway and fumbled for her phone. "I need to call Mia right away." As the phone rang, Allison glanced at Daniel, expecting to see anger or frustration. Instead, he looked surprisingly calm, even slightly amused by the situation. "Mia, I think I picked up the wrong person," Allison blurted the moment her sister answered. "Is your boss's first name Hayes?" "What? No, his name is Richard Hayes," Mia croaked. "Why? Who did you pick up?" "I'll call you back," Allison said quickly, ending the call. She turned to Daniel, who was now openly smiling. "Mr. Morgan, I am beyond sorry for this mix-up. I've never been so embarrassed in my life." "It's quite all right," he said, leaning back in his seat. "These things happen, though I admit this is a first for me." He checked his watch. "We should probably head back to the airport to find the real Mr. Hayes." Allison nodded, putting her car in gear and carefully merging back onto the highway. As she drove, her mind raced. She had just kidnapped. Was it kidnapping if he came willingly? One of the most powerful businessmen in the country, possibly the world, if Pinnacle Investments was what she thought it was. "Pinnacle Investments," she said aloud, the name finally clicking. "Wait, you're that Daniel Morgan, the billionaire whose face occasionally graced the covers of business magazines? The notorious corporate raider known for ruthless acquisitions?" Daniel's smile widened, a predatory gleam in his eye that sent a shiver down Allison's spine. "The very same," he replied, "and you've just given me quite the introduction to your sister's company. I wonder what else I might learn before our official meeting tomorrow." "I should probably call my driver," Daniel said, pulling out his phone. "He was supposed to meet me at 9, but I can have him come to the airport now." Allison glanced at him as she navigated back toward the airport. "You had a driver scheduled? Then why did you come with me?" A hint of a smile played at the corners of his mouth. Curiosity, I suppose. It's not every day a stranger holds up a sign with someone else's name and then whisks you away. His fingers paused over his phone screen. Though I should probably let him know I've arranged alternate transportation. Allison felt a flush of embarrassment creep up her neck. I'm really sorry about this. I was just trying to help my sister. No need to apologize. In fact, he pocketed his phone without making the call. I find myself intrigued by this turn of events. Tell me, what do you do when you're not impersonating your sister's colleagues or kidnapping CEOs? I'm a photographer, Allison replied, relaxing slightly at his light tone. Freelance, mostly. I specialize in architectural photography. Interesting. Any buildings of mine in your portfolio? Actually, yes. Allison couldn't help but smile. The Pinnacle Tower downtown. The way the light hits the glass facade at sunset is spectacular. Daniel's expression softened with genuine interest. I'd like to see your work sometime. As they pulled into the airport parking lot for the second time, Allison's phone rang. It was Mia again. Any luck finding Mr. Hayes? Her sister asked, sounding even worse than before. I'm back at the airport now, Allison explained, parking the car. I'll find him, don't worry. There's been a change of plans, Mia said, followed by a fit of coughing. Mr. Hayes just called. His flight was delayed in London due to mechanical issues. He won't be arriving until this afternoon. Allison let out a sigh of relief. So I didn't strand him after all. No, but he's furious about the delay. He wanted me to book him on another flight, as if I control the airlines. Mia sneezed loudly. Anyway, you're off the hook for now. I'll figure something out for later. Feel better, Mia. Call me if you need anything else. Allison ended the call and turned to Daniel, who had been watching her with interest. Good news. Your doppelganger's flight was delayed. He's not even here. Fortune favors the foolish, it seems, Daniel said with a chuckle. So what now? Shall I call my driver, or are you planning to continue this kidnapping? Allison laughed despite herself. I should probably get you to your hotel as originally planned. It's the least I can do after all this confusion. Daniel checked his watch, an elegant timepiece that probably cost more than Allison's car. I don't have meetings until this afternoon. Perhaps you could show me some of your favorite architectural spots in the city. I always like to get a feel for a place before doing business there. Allison hesitated. Spending more time with a billionaire CEO seemed like a recipe for disaster, especially given their awkward introduction. But something about Daniel Morgan intrigued her. Unlike the cold, calculating image portrayed in the media, he seemed surprisingly human. I suppose I could do that, she said finally. Consider it my apology tour. As they drove downtown, Allison pointed out various buildings of interest, explaining the history and design elements that made them unique. Daniel listened attentively, asking thoughtful questions that revealed a genuine appreciation for architecture. You know quite a bit about the city, he commented, as she parked near a small cafe in the arts district. I've lived here my whole life, Allison replied. Coffee? This place has the best brew in town, and I could use some caffeine after that early wake-up call. Inside the cozy cafe, they found a quiet corner table. The morning rush hadn't started yet, and they had the place mostly to themselves. Allison ordered a simple black coffee, while Daniel opted for an espresso. So tell me about Reed Associates, Daniel said once their drinks arrived. What exactly does your sister do there? Allison stirred her coffee, choosing her words carefully. Mia is an executive assistant to the CEO, Richard Hayes. She's only been there for a few months, but she seems to like it. It's a marketing firm, I think. To be honest, we don't talk much about her work. Not close with your sister? Daniel asked, his blue eyes studying her with unexpected intensity. We're complicated, Allison admitted. Mia's always been the ambitious one. climbing the corporate ladder. I chose a different path. The creative route, Daniel nodded. Often more fulfilling, though less financially secure. Exactly. Our parents always pushed us towards stable careers. Doctor, lawyer, that sort of thing. Mia followed their advice. I didn't. Alison took a sip of her coffee, surprised at how easily she was opening up to this stranger. They weren't thrilled when I majored in fine arts. And now? What do they think of your photography career? Alison's expression clouded. They died in a car accident 5 years ago. They never really got to see me succeed. Daniel's face softened with genuine sympathy. I'm sorry to hear that. My own parents passed when I was in college. It changes you, doesn't it? Makes you reassess what matters. The unexpected vulnerability in his voice caught Alison off guard. This wasn't the ruthless businessman she'd read about. Before she could respond, her phone chimed with a text from Mia. Mr. Hayes arriving 2 p.m. Can you please pick him up? I'm worse and doctor says I need rest. Lifesaver if you can, Alison sighed, showing Daniel the message. Looks like I'm on airport duty again later. The joys of sisterhood, Daniel commented. You know, Reed Associates is one of several companies I'm considering for acquisition. Perhaps I should tell your sister who you spent the morning with. Alison's eyes widened. Please don't. She'd absolutely kill me if she knew I accidentally picked up the CEO who might buy her company. Your secret's safe with me, Daniel assured her, his eyes twinkling with amusement, though I must admit this gives me an unfair advantage in tomorrow's negotiations. How so? I've seen the real face of the company, not the polished boardroom version, but the human side. A sister willing to wake up before dawn to help another sister keep her job. He leaned forward slightly. That tells me more about the company culture than any financial statement could. Alison wasn't sure if that was a good or bad thing for Reed Associates, but before she could ask, Daniel's phone rang. He checked the caller ID and frowned. I need to take this, he said, standing. Excuse me for a moment. As Daniel stepped outside to take his call, Alison found herself studying him through the cafe window. Despite his obvious wealth and power, there was something refreshingly authentic about him. Unlike the other business executives she'd photographed over the years, including her sister's previous bosses, Daniel Morgan seemed to actually listen when she spoke. When he returned, his expression had changed. The warmth was gone, replaced by the cool, calculating look she imagined he wore in boardrooms. Everything okay? She asked. Change of plans, he said, his voice now clipped and professional. I need to get to my hotel immediately. There's an issue with one of my companies that requires my attention. The sudden shift in his demeanor was jarring. Alison nodded, gathering her things. Of course. I'll take you right away. The drive to the Grand Hotel was filled with tense silence. Daniel spent most of it on his phone, sending emails and texts with rapid-fire intensity. Occasionally, he made brief calls in which he spoke in a low, controlled voice that nonetheless conveyed unmistakable authority. This was the Daniel Morgan the business world knew, focused, intense, and intimidating. Alison found herself missing the man who had laughed about being kidnapped just an hour earlier. When they arrived at the hotel, Daniel thanked her curtly and reached for his wallet. Please let me compensate you for your time and the inconvenience, he said, pulling out several $100 bills. Alison felt a sting of disappointment. After their conversation at the cafe, she thought they'd moved beyond the mistaken chauffeur dynamic. That's not necessary, she said, perhaps more coldly than intended. I'm not a taxi service. Daniel paused, seeming to realize his misstep. His expression softened slightly. I apologize, force of habit. He returned the money to his wallet. Thank you for the tour and conversation. It was unexpectedly enlightening. You're welcome, Mr. Morgan, Alison replied formally. Good luck with your business issue. As he stepped out of the car, he hesitated, then leaned back in. The acquisition of Reed Associates, it's not a hostile takeover, despite what your sister might think. The company has potential that current management isn't recognizing. Before Allison could respond, he closed the door and strode into the hotel, every inch the powerful CEO. Driving away, Allison felt conflicted. The morning had been a roller coaster of emotions and impressions. Daniel Morgan was either a surprisingly decent human being or a master manipulator, perhaps both. Her phone rang again, Mia, probably with more demands. Allison let it go to voicemail, needing time to process the strange morning. What she didn't know was that in his hotel suite, Daniel Morgan was making a phone call that would dramatically change the course of both their lives. "Jeffrey," he said to his chief financial officer, "I want you to dig deeper into Reed Associates. Their organizational structure, employee relations, everything, and find out everything you can about Mia Reed and her sister, Allison." Allison arrived at the airport for the third time that day, determined to get it right this time. Her makeshift sign now read Richard Hayes in bold letters, leaving no room for confusion. As she waited in the arrivals area, she found herself scanning the crowd, not for Mr. Hayes, but for Daniel Morgan's tall figure, though she knew he wouldn't be there. Her encounter with the billionaire had left her unsettled. One moment he'd been charming and personable, the next cold and distant. The comment about investigating Reed Associates lingered in her mind. What did he really want with her sister's company? A stocky man with thinning gray hair approached her, dragging an expensive-looking suitcase. "Ms. Reed?" he asked brusquely, barely looking at her. "Mr. Hayes?" "Yes, I'm Allison Reed, Mia's sister. She's ill today, so I'm filling in." Richard Hayes frowned, his jowls sagging with disapproval. "I expected Mia. I have confidential documents to discuss." "She has a high fever. The doctor ordered rest," Allison explained, reaching for his suitcase. "I can take that for you." He pulled it back possessively. "I've got it, let's go. I'm already behind schedule because of that blasted flight delay." As they walked to the parking garage, Allison noted the stark contrast between Hayes and Daniel Morgan. Where Daniel had been gracious despite the mix-up, Hayes seemed irritated by her very existence. "So you work for Reed Associates as well?" Hayes asked as they approached her car. "No, I'm a photographer, just helping my sister out today." Hayes made a dismissive noise. "Photographer? Humph. Not much of a career, is it?" Allison bit her tongue, reminding herself that this was Mia's boss. "It pays the bills," she said neutrally, opening the trunk for his suitcase. The drive downtown was excruciating. Hayes spent most of it complaining about the flight, the delay, the weather, the traffic, and eventually Mia's absence. "This merger is crucial. I need my team fully committed," he grumbled. "Your sister has potential, but she lacks focus, always taking personal calls in the office." Allison frowned. That didn't sound like Mia, who was almost obsessively professional. "I'm sure she's dedicated to her job, sir." "She was devastated about being too sick to pick you up," Hayes snorted. "Well, she'd better recover quickly. We have a meeting with Pinnacle Investments tomorrow. Daniel Morgan doesn't tolerate incompetence." Allison's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "You're meeting with Pinnacle tomorrow?" "Yes, though I don't know why Morgan's wasting his time with us. Reed Associates is hardly in his league." Hayes sighed. "But if he wants to throw money at us, who am I to object?" "Do you want to sell the company?" Allison asked cautiously. Hayes gave her a sharp look. "That's confidential business information, Ms. Reed. But between us, everyone has a price. Morgan's known for paying premium rates to get what he wants." They pulled up to the Grand Hotel, the same place she'd dropped off Daniel hours earlier. Allison couldn't help scanning the lobby as she helped Hayes with his luggage, half expecting to see the billionaire again. "I need to speak with your sister," Hayes said as they reached the front desk. "Have her call me when you get home. Illness be damned." Allison nodded stiffly. "I'll let her know. Feel better after your flight, Mr. Hayes." She was halfway to her car when her phone rang. The screen displayed an unfamiliar number. "Hello? Ms. Reed, this is Daniel Morgan's office. Mr. Morgan would like to meet with you this evening if you're available." Allison froze, her heart suddenly racing. "With me? Why?" "He didn't specify. He simply asked me to arrange a dinner meeting at 7. A car will pick you up at your residence." "How do you know where I live?" Allison asked, alarm bells ringing in her head. There was a brief pause. "Mr. Morgan has your information from your photography website. Will you be available at 7? Allison hesitated. Meeting with Daniel again seemed risky, especially without knowing his intentions regarding her sister's company, but curiosity won out. "Yes, I'll be ready at 7. After hanging up, Allison called Mia, who sounded half asleep and miserable. "Your boss is a real piece of work," Allison said, recounting Hayes's comments. "Tell me about it," Mia groaned. "Did he say anything about the Pinnacle meeting?" "Only that it's tomorrow and that everyone has their price." Allison paused, debating whether to mention her own encounter with Daniel Morgan. "Mia, what do you know about this potential buyout?" "Not much. Hayes keeps everything close to the vest, but there are rumors that several executives would get massive payouts while the rest of us would likely be let go." Mia coughed painfully. "Why the interest in my company's business dealings?" "Just trying to understand what's important to you," Allison deflected. "Listen, I have a client meeting tonight. Get some rest and I'll check on you tomorrow." The lie felt heavy on her tongue, but telling Mia about her dinner with Daniel seemed unwise until she understood his motives better. At home, Allison spent an hour selecting an outfit, settling on a simple black dress that managed to be both professional and elegant, and another hour worrying about what Daniel might want from her. Was this about Reed Associates or something else entirely? At precisely 7, a sleek black car pulled up outside her modest apartment building. The driver, a woman in a crisp suit, opened the door for her. "Ms. Reed, good evening. I'm taking you to Elysium." Allison's eyebrows shot up. Elysium was the most exclusive restaurant in the city, with a months-long waiting list. "Of course you are," she murmured, sliding into the luxurious back seat. The restaurant was housed in a beautifully restored historic building that Allison had photographed numerous times from the outside, but had never entered. She was escorted through the dimly lit, opulent interior to a private dining room where Daniel was waiting. He stood as she entered, and Allison was struck again by his commanding presence. He wore a different suit than that morning, equally well-tailored, with a midnight blue tie that brought out the intensity of his eyes. "Thank you for coming," he said, gesturing to the chair across from him. "I hope the invitation wasn't too presumptuous." "It was unexpected," Allison admitted, taking her seat. "Your assistant wouldn't tell me what this is about." Daniel smiled enigmatically. "Let's order first, shall we? The chef here is exceptional." Throughout the appetizer course, a delicate scallop dish that Allison could never have afforded on her own, Daniel kept the conversation light, asking about her photography and sharing amusing anecdotes about his travels. It wasn't until the main course arrived that he finally broached the subject she'd been anxiously anticipating. "I've been looking into Reed Associates," he said, cutting into his perfectly cooked steak. "It's an interesting company with considerable potential, but I've uncovered some concerning information." Allison set down her fork. "What kind of information?" "Financial irregularities. Significant ones." Daniel's expression grew serious. "Under normal circumstances, I'd walk away from the acquisition. I don't invest in companies with questionable accounting practices, but given our unique introduction this morning, I wanted to discuss this with you first. With me? I don't work there. I barely understand what my sister does, but you care about her clearly, enough to wake up before dawn to help her. Daniel leaned forward. Has she mentioned anything about the company's finances? Unusual stress or concerns? Allison shook her head slowly. No, nothing like that. But we don't talk much about her work. A horrible thought dawned on her. You don't think Mia is involved in something illegal, do you? Daniel studied her face carefully. I don't know. But my investigations suggest that someone high in the company is siphoning funds, has been for years. The person doing it knows how to cover their tracks, but the numbers don't lie. Richard Hayes, Allison whispered, remembering his comment about everyone having a price. It has to be him. That would be my guess as well, Daniel agreed. But I need evidence before I can make accusations. Allison's mind raced. If Hayes was embezzling and the company collapsed or faced legal troubles, Mia would lose her job. Despite their differences, Allison couldn't let that happen to her sister. How can I help? She asked. Daniel's expression was unreadable. That depends on how far you're willing to go to protect your sister. What I'm about to propose isn't exactly conventional. Tell me, Allison insisted. Hayes believes I'm still interested in acquiring Reed Associates. Our meeting is scheduled for tomorrow afternoon, but I need access to certain financial records that he won't voluntarily provide. Daniel paused. If someone could access Hayes's laptop while we're meeting, you want me to break into his computer? Allison gasped. That's illegal. Not breaking in exactly. Daniel held up a small USB drive. This program would copy specific financial files that could prove the embezzlement. Hayes would never know it was used. Allison stood up, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. I can't believe this. You invited me here to recruit me for corporate espionage. I invited you here because I thought you deserved to know what's happening at your sister's company, Daniel countered calmly. What you do with that information is entirely your choice. Why would you even care? You could just walk away from the deal. Daniel's eyes held hers. Perhaps I have my own reasons for wanting to expose Hayes, or perhaps I simply want to help the woman who kidnapped me this morning. The lightness in his tone contrasted sharply with the seriousness of what he was suggesting. Allison sat back down slowly, mind whirling with possibilities and consequences. And if I refuse, then I drop my interest in Reed Associates, and whatever Hayes is doing continues unchecked until it eventually implodes, with your sister caught in the fallout. Daniel sighed. I'm not trying to pressure you, Allison. I'm offering you a choice that I thought you deserved to have. As she stared at the small USB drive on the table between them, Allison realized that her impulsive airport mix-up that morning had set in motion events that could either save or destroy her sister's career, and possibly her own integrity along with it. I need time to think, she said finally. Daniel nodded. Of course, but not too much time. The meeting is at 2 o'clock tomorrow. Allison barely slept that night, her mind racing with the implications of Daniel's proposal. By morning, she had made her decision. She would help expose Hayes, but on her own terms. She arrived at Mia's apartment early, finding her sister looking pale but improved. You look terrible, Mia commented, letting her in. Rough night? We need to talk, Allison said, settling on the couch. It's about your company, about Richard Hayes. Mia's expression immediately turned guarded. What about him? Carefully, Allison explained what Daniel had told her about the financial irregularities, omitting how they had met or his suggestion about the USB drive. When she finished, Mia was silent for a long moment. I've suspected something wasn't right, Mia finally admitted. hugging a throw pillow to her chest. There have been discrepancies in the reports I prepare for Hayes. When I mentioned them, he brushed me off, said it was above my pay grade. Why didn't you tell me? Allison asked. Mia shrugged. You've always made it clear you don't care about corporate politics. Besides, we don't exactly confide in each other these days. The truth of that statement stung. Once inseparable, the sisters had grown apart after their parents' death, Allison throwing herself into her art, Mia into her career. I want to help, Allison said, reaching for her sister's hand. Hayes has a meeting with Pinnacle Investments this afternoon. I have a plan, but I'll need your help. Mia's eyebrows shot up. How do you know about that meeting? It's complicated. Do you trust me? After a moment of hesitation, Mia nodded. What's the plan? 2 hours later, Allison walked confidently through the lobby of Reed Associates, wearing one of Mia's business suits and carrying her sister's ID badge. With her hair pulled back and light makeup applied to mimic Mia's style, the resemblance was striking enough to pass casual scrutiny. Good morning, Ms. Reed, the receptionist greeted her. Feeling better? Much, thank you, Allison replied with a smile, heading toward the elevators. Step 1 complete. In Mia's office, she found a stack of folders waiting for the afternoon meeting. Perfect. She quickly photographed several documents with her phone, sending them to Mia, who was coordinating remotely from home. Hayes just sent an email, Mia texted. He wants you to bring his laptop to the conference room before the meeting. It's in his office. Password is on a sticky note under his keyboard. Typical. Allison made her way to Hayes's corner office, her heart pounding. The laptop was there as described, along with the password. As she booted up the computer, she hesitated, Daniel's USB drive heavy in her pocket. Instead of using it, she opened the File Explorer and navigated to the Financial Records section. Following Mia's instructions, she quickly located the suspicious files and emailed them to her sister. No need for Daniel's potentially illegal software. Got them, Mia confirmed. These are definitely the files Hayes doesn't want anyone seeing. They show transfers to an offshore account that match the discrepancies I noticed. Allison snapped photos of the computer screen for good measure, then shut everything down. She grabbed Hayes's laptop and headed for the conference room, arriving just as the executive team was gathering. Ah, Mia, good to see you back, Hayes said, barely glancing at her as she set up his laptop. Get us coffee, would you? Morgan will be here soon. Right away, sir, Allison replied, keeping her head down. In the break room, she quickly texted Daniel. Don't need your USB, already have what we need. Play along when you arrive. The reply came immediately. Interesting development. See you soon. When Daniel arrived with his team, Allison was standing unobtrusively in the corner of the conference room, playing the part of the dutiful assistant. Their eyes met briefly as he entered, and she could have sworn he winked at her. Mr. Morgan, welcome, Hayes said, all smiles and handshakes. We're excited about this potential partnership. Daniel's demeanor was pure business. Let's be clear, Richard. This isn't a partnership discussion. It's an acquisition evaluation. The meeting proceeded with presentations from both sides. Hayes painted a glowing picture of Reed Associates' financial health, while Daniel asked pointed questions that made the executive team increasingly uncomfortable. Your projected growth seems optimistic, Daniel commented, reviewing the figures, particularly given the discrepancies in your quarterly reports. Hayes stiffened. What discrepancies? Perhaps we should discuss this privately, Daniel suggested, glancing meaningfully at Allison. Just the principles. Excellent idea, Hayes agreed quickly. Mia, please show Mr. Morgan's team to the small conference room while we continue here. Actually, Daniel interrupted, I'd like Miss Reed to stay. My understanding is that she prepares many of your financial reports. Hayes frowned, but didn't object. Once everyone else had left, Daniel's expression changed completely. Let's cut to the chase, Hayes. I know about the embezzlement. What? Hayes sputtered, his face reddening. That's absurd. Morgan, if this is some negotiation tactic, it's not a tactic, Allison interjected, stepping forward. We have proof. Hayes turned to her, confused. Then his eyes widened with realization. You're not Mia. No, I'm her sister, Allison, the one who picked you up at the airport yesterday. She pulled out her phone. And I have copies of your offshore account transfers right here. Hayes lunged for her phone, but Daniel was faster, stepping between them. That's enough, Hayes. Your schemes are over. Here's what happens next. You resign immediately, return the stolen funds, or face criminal charges. You can't prove anything, Hayes blustered, but his trembling hands betrayed his fear. Actually, we can, Allison said calmly. Mia has been documenting the discrepancies for weeks. She just didn't know what they meant until now. Hayes collapsed into his chair, defeat written across his face. Fine, I'll resign. But I want immunity. That's not up to us, Daniel replied coldly. But your cooperation will be noted. After Hayes left to clear out his office under the watchful eye of Daniel's security chief, Allison turned to the billionaire with a mix of admiration and suspicion. You knew I wouldn't use your USB drive, didn't you? Daniel smiled enigmatically. I suspected you'd find another way. You're remarkably resourceful, Allison Reed. And you're remarkably manipulative, Daniel Morgan. Was any of this real, or was it all part of some elaborate plan? His expression softened. The embezzlement was real. My interest in exposing Hayes was real. He stepped closer. And my interest in you is very real. Why me? You could have anyone. Perhaps that's exactly why. Everyone in my world wants something from me. My money, my power, my connections. But you... He smiled. You refused payment for driving me, showed me your city through an artist's eyes, and found your own way to help your sister without compromising your integrity. Before Allison could respond, the door opened and Mia rushed in, looking professional despite her lingering illness. It worked, she exclaimed, hugging her sister tightly. Hayes is packing up as we speak. She turned to Daniel with newfound respect. Mr. Morgan, thank you for your help exposing him. Don't thank me, Daniel replied. It was your sister who made it all possible. About that, Mia said, glancing between them curiously. How exactly do you two know each other? Allison and Daniel exchanged looks, and for the first time that day, Allison genuinely laughed. It's a long story that begins with a mix-up at the airport, which you can tell me all about later, Mia said. Right now, the board is assembling for an emergency meeting. They're talking about appointing me interim director of operations until they find Hayes' replacement. That's wonderful. Allison hugged her sister again, genuinely happy for her. After Mia left to attend the board meeting, an awkward silence fell between Allison and Daniel. So what happens now? She finally asked. With Reed Associates. I'm still interested in the company, Daniel admitted, but not in the way Hayes feared. I don't want to dismantle it. I want to invest in it, help it grow. With the right leadership, it has tremendous potential. Someone like Mia, Allison suggested. Precisely. Daniel hesitated, then added, and I'm hoping that a certain talented photographer might consider documenting the company's transformation. We'll need new images for the rebranding. Allison raised an eyebrow. Is this a job offer, Mr. Morgan? It's whatever you want it to be, Ms. Reed. His voice softened. I'm in town for the next month, overseeing the transition. Perhaps you could show me more of the city, this time without any mistaken identities or corporate espionage hanging over our heads. The sincerity in his eyes melted Allison's remaining reservations. "I'd like that." 6 months later, Reed Associates had been transformed under Mia's leadership with strategic investment from Pinnacle. Allison's photography career had flourished with the high-profile corporate work, leading to gallery exhibitions featuring her architectural studies. But the most unexpected transformation had been personal. The airport mix-up had not only reunited the Reed sisters, rebuilding their once-fractured relationship, but had also brought an unlikely romance into Allison's life. As she prepared for dinner at Daniel's penthouse, Allison marveled at how one simple mistake had changed everything. Her phone chimed with a text from her sister. "Don't forget we're meeting tomorrow about the charity foundation. P.S. Tell Daniel his jet better not be late again." Allison smiled, typing back, "Will do, and Mia, thank you for being sick that day." When she arrived at the penthouse, Daniel was waiting with champagne and a breathtaking view of the city skyline. "2 airport mix-ups," he toasted, clinking his glass against hers. "And to picking up the wrong billionaire," Allison added with a smile. As the sun set over the city they both now called home, Allison reflected on the unexpected journey that had brought them together. Sometimes the wrong turn leads exactly where you're meant to be,